Stories are powerful.
Yes.
The human mind, the human condition is wired for accepting, understanding stories in a story form. If you listen to us, if you listen, you have given that person that's talking some piece of yourself. You are engaged in the story. It can work for you, so it can be healing for the person telling the story and for the person hearing the story.
You probably look at yourself differently than we do, and you're like, I'm just a guy. What could I do to change 8 billion people's experience? And yet, you've allowed the negative environments to not make you negative. Have you ever found yourself in a toxic environment? Yes. Oh, maybe this studio is not the place for you then. No, sometimes it's difficult to escape the negativity that constantly surrounds us. But today's guest is here to tell us how he's learned to rise above negative environments in order to bring good into the world. From his roles as Don King in Rocky IV, Owen Sr. in Men of a Certain Age, and Granddaddy Clisby in the remake of The Wonder Years, he is one of the most recognizable faces in the business. Please help me welcome actor, writer, producer, and author Richard Gant. Welcome.
Well, I think you forgot all-around good fellow.
An all-around good fella. Yes. Excellent. Have a seat.
Thank you.
You are an incredible human being. I understand. I've heard a statistic that if I were to turn on the TV at any given moment, you're on at least 5 different channels at that time.
Very possibly, but only because I'm a character actor.
Yeah.
And as a character actor, you play a number of different roles, and so you get hired by a number of different people at a number of different times, and there we go.
Hey, but that's good for business. You get hired a lot.
Well, I'm getting hired more now, interestingly
Are you?
enough, because I'm older and there's less people. So,
They keep dying off.
yeah.
Well, did you always want to do acting as a child, or when did that come into your thoughts?
The first play I was in was the first play I ever saw.
Which was?
I was out of the Air Force, back in college. I was going to a school called Merritt College at the time, up in Oakland, California. Merritt College was the seatbed of the Black Revolution.
There it is.
The Black Panther Party was starting at that moment, at that very spot.
Really?
Yes. And so I was introduced to literature. I had only read one book about my people, Black people, in my life. And here I was, 22 years old, back in college.
Yeah.
And it was introduced to literature, got caught up in it, and there was a revolutionary students meeting, and our teacher stood up and said that she was forming a revolutionary theater company, and I followed my girlfriend. I was in a dance company at the time.
Don't we always?
Yeah. And ended up on stage, realized that my voice reached the back wall, necessary, got hooked, and directed my first scene within 3 weeks of my first stepping foot on stage.
Oh my word.
I had never seen a play other than church plays, and you see what you see on TV. And so here I was, when I got introduced to theater and got out to the State University, I would have done anything. I would have schlepped cable. I would have just done lighting for the rest of my life and just been happy.
Really?
It so happened that acting paid the bills.
So you start out as a young man in the middle of revolutionary time, the Black Panther movement.
Yes.
Now, I know a little bit about it, but I know it from a different perspective. My mom actually lived in Oakland. This is just before I was born. She's pushing the little stroller down the sidewalk with my sister, and there were Black Panther members there that say, this is not a safe place for you to be. Warned her and said, turn around and go. It was a tumultuous time. What was your experience during that time?
These are the 60s. And in the 60s, it was, if you were a college student, that was the best of all worlds, first off.
Yeah.
So we were very aware that we were part of the vanguard. We were the vanguard. There were tense times, and there were glorious times. So it was all of that at the same time. At the University of California in Berkeley, it was alive. There was a demonstration, big, huge parade of hippies and flower children and activists and revolutionaries every weekend.
Wow.
Every weekend. And we would go and laugh at some of the police throwing stuff at the demonstrators and demonstrators throwing stuff at the police. You know, that was funny to us until you got gassed.
Yeah.
But Oakland and Berkeley at that time was fantastic. San Francisco was not one step removed from all of that. Haight-Ashbury, it was fabulous times.
Yeah.
Tense times, yes. Some people were being hurt badly. The Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. I ended up going into the Veterans Hospital in 1966, fall of 1966, was staring at a television, sitting up in the VA hospital. I just got out of service. And there, the Panthers were walking into the chambers of the California State Legislature with rifles. And I'm saying, oh man, I'm missing all of this. I'm sitting up here in this hospital, they won't let me out. It was just a fabulous time. I ran into Bobby Seals recently. I mean, a week and a half ago. Yeah. You know, he's somewhat subdued, you know, he's revered. He's somewhat subdued now. And you look around at all of those revolutionaries and activists and people who were just huge in your life then.
Yeah.
And you see them now, and it's kind of bittersweet.
In your mind, what's bittersweet about it?
Well, you look at people who you idolized one way or the other. They were athletes at that time, too. Remember, at that time, for me, it was all about athletics.
Yeah.
You know, it ended up being something else. One of the reasons why I never saw play is because I was always trying to play ball.
Yeah.
I had to play this ball. And you see these people, some of them have passed away now, are in the process of passing away, and you just say, well, wow.
Yeah.
You know, what is it all about?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But you know that you were a part of the vanguard, and that helps.
It's tough being in a position where you don't feel like your voice is being heard. And I think that was one of the things that, from me reading it as history, there's a point where you push people to where they say, we have to have a revolution just so someone will hear us, will hear what we're saying. What was that experience like for you?
Well, this was a time when action was being taken.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of it you can look back on and say, well, was that as necessary? But then when you're students and when you're young and when the notion is don't trust anybody over 30 and you must resist, it doesn't matter what the parameters are. You just have to resist. That's a part of it.
Yeah. I want to continue this conversation, but we got to take a break. And when we come back, Richard will tell us about the most memorable role he's ever played. Don't go away. We're back with the esteemed Richard Gant. Now, when we left for the break, we were just talking about these things that there's negativity, there's positivity, there's hope, there's challenge. Where did you go from college with all of these experiences into theater and taking that more seriously, which led on to your other roles and experiences?
Well, my quest for understanding who I am through literature led me to Langston Hughes, poet Langston Hughes. And that gave me this thirst for being in Harlem, just understanding New York and Harlem. When I got out to the State University, I discovered Wole Soyinka. Wole Soyinka is a poet and writer, a Nigerian poet and writer, the only Black African that's won a Pulitzer Prize.
Really?
For literature. And so I was doing Langston Hughes musicals, directing them, and directing Wole Soyinka's plays. I taught school there in Oakland for a while, realized I didn't know what in the heck I was teaching about, and headed for New York City. Got to New York City and was in heaven. You could do theater all day long, 24/7 if you wanted to. You could stay and sleep in the theater. It was fantastic. Now, just about everybody I thought that I was on stage with there in New York at that time had at least an undergraduate degree in theater. So that's what you're up against.
Yeah.
Ran into a fella named Duma Ndlovu, who was an exile from South Africa. And he was bringing a bunch of South African energies and plays and stuff to New York, and we collaborated on some things. And one of the things that we collaborated on, something called Sheila's Day, ended up on Broadway. But in 2010, we came up with the notion of reenacting. It was the 20th anniversary of Mandela's walk out of prison. So we thought we would reenact that moment. And we talked to the government about it, or he talked to the government about it, and they had kind of forgotten that this was the 20th anniversary because they were trying to hold down Mandela's prominence. They had to get on with governing, and Mandela was just too much. Our purpose was, there were a number of people in the United States that we were representing that had for 20, 30 years been on this road of trying to get South Africa to do away with apartheid. Remember, I'm from Berkeley, which is Ron Dellum's home turf. Right. And Ron Dellum's first act in Congress was to introduce some kind of something to try to mitigate against apartheid.
Yeah.
So we were representing them. These folks had never gotten closure because there was, what kind of closure can you get? Yes, it was independent, but what? So we were representing it. We, a week and a half from the event, the South African government woke up, so did ANC, and said, no, you guys, we're taking this. We're going to do it. We're going to do a lot of the stuff that you want to do, but we're taking over, but we're going to bring 10,000 people.
That's good.
Yeah. So we won. It was a fantastic event. Coming back from that event, I met a guy named Dr. Jibril Diallo, who had been in the United Nations for 30-some years. And he met us on the aircraft coming back and wanted to know what we had been doing. We told him about it, and he asked me if I wanted to come to the 50th anniversary of Senegal's independence. Well, at that moment when somebody asks you something like that, you look in his left eye to see if he's telling the truth. And of course, the president sent a plane for us in New York City, and of the 100 people that were on the flight, there were luminaries that I thought that I would never sit next to, be in company with. Guy asked me if I knew who that was, and I said, who is it? That's Marcus Garvey's son. Now, first of all, you don't believe it. How can that be Marcus Garvey's son?
Right.
We asked somebody else, and they said, yes, that is it. So you had to take this deep breath, realize the importance of what this is. This is not just for you anymore.
Right.
It's totally important. And so we went, and from that moment on, I had been enthused with the direction that I could take and the importance that I could have in communicating and bringing communications between various peoples.
And that's probably going to be one of your greatest legacies. And I want to dig into that a little bit more right after this break. Richard Gant has joined the fight to protect women and girls from abuse around the world. And when we come back, he's going to tell us all about the Red Card campaign. You don't want to miss it. We're back with Richard Gant. Now, Richard, you are passionate about protecting women, children. Tell me about this Red Card campaign.
Red Card campaign was started by FIFA, the football association, FIFA, that puts on the World Cup.
Yep.
As we all know, FIFA has issues.
And they have yellow cards and red cards.
And they have yellow cards and red cards. And so the red card campaign is a pledge that we ask people to take to end all forms of violence and discrimination against women and girls. It's an awareness campaign, an awareness to hopefully cause you to rethink whatever you may think about the notion of violence against women and girls. So we asked, so how can we expand this? And they started talking about the focus groups that they have with women, where they ask these ladies to tell their story. And if they're in this kind of protected kind of place where they can reveal, take this load off of their shoulders, it is a healing kind of a thing. Stories are powerful.
Yes.
The human mind, the human condition is wired for accepting, understanding stories in a story form. If you listen to us, you have given that person that's talking some piece of yourself. You are engaged in the story. It can work for you, so it can be healing for the person telling the story and for the person hearing the story. That lady said, why don't we start something called the 100 Voices? Well, we thought about it and started working at that. I was at another conference recently, Climate Action Conference, and we met some guys, some AI fellows in artificial intelligence, new startup up there in Silicon Valley. And they listened and said, well, hold up. Maybe we can apply some AI elements to story. Maybe we can understand a bit better how a story heals. Maybe we can parse it in such a way that we can understand better. Maybe there's other things that we can understand about the person. Maybe these are things that help our society itself understand issues, not just things that they already know, but other things that's beyond our pale of our imagination.
That's huge. That's huge.
And so we went from 100 voices to 1 million voices. So it's a 1 million voice campaign.
That's awesome.
But there's a little bit more to it. These AI fellows have started engaging other fellows up there in Silicon Valley, and now we have moved to 8 billion voices, because we understand that it's not just the women's stories. Yes, that's very needed, very necessary, and healing for the woman. But men have a part of this also. What are the men's stories? And so when I asked that specific question, one of the answers that I got back 2 days ago was there are men who have said that they have learned through their mistakes, through the fact that their wife left them or they were hurt some kind of a way, that they can tell the story of how they now understand that things can be better if I look at things differently, if I act differently. So we're now at 8 billion voices, and these Silicon Valley folks have gotten an app. They're putting together an app that they don't even know where all of this is going. So that's where we are. It's a fantastic notion.
That is fantastic. You went from spaces that individuals around you have gone into negative space. You know, you've got challenge, you've got, you know, racism, you have issues where there are obstacles in your way. And I'm sure there are people you've seen along the way that you thought would be with you at this time, and negativity has won out. But look what you've done by maintaining your positivity and saying, look, there are needs out there that you probably look at yourself differently than we do, and you're like, I'm just a guy. What could I do to change 8 billion people's experience? And yet, you've allowed the negative environments to not make you negative. You've allowed that shift. If people wanted to get connected to the Red Card campaign, to all the stuff that you're doing, what are some of the best places for them to go to?
Well, they can go to the African Renaissance and Diaspora Network. It's online. That's the organization that is running the Red Card campaign for FIFA. By the way, we have to do something for the Women's World Cup in Australia, New Zealand this July, August. We'll have some kind of platform there. And we hope to be able to engage the indigenous community there in both of those places also. And they tell us that they have an immigrant problem also. And so hopefully we can engage those, because those ladies are at a kind of a different level from the ladies, say, here in the United States. Yes, there are trafficked women here. Yes, all of that. Mm-hmm. But some of these immigrant communities where they have taken their lives in their own hands to get on a boat and cross an ocean to get to someplace better, those ladies, their issues, kind of unimaginable. And we'd like to know them and be able to some kind of way help.
You're not just changing your world, you're changing the world beyond where you are to help people in negative circumstances understand there's hope. So Thank you so much for your time.
Well,
thank you for being on Lifestyle with us. We're going to take a short break, but don't go anywhere, because I have some important info to share on how attitude can create change around you. Don't go away. How can you rise above negative environments in order to bring good into the world? Brian Tracy once said, "You cannot control what happens to you, but you can control your attitude toward what happens to you. And in that, you will be learning how to master change instead of allowing it to master you." What he said is true. Life doesn't happen to you. Life happens for you. Your pain did not happen to you. It happened for you to help you be more empathetic. Now you're building skills to have the empathy to see and feel the needs of the hurting people around you. Now you are perfectly positioned to give of yourself and to help and share your expressions of loving compassion to a world who is wondering if there is anyone else who cares about their pain. And your care-filled response to them will help you fulfill your life's purpose and meaning. Decide to respond with love and bring more good into the world. Remember, you're just one decision away from a better lifestyle. You can make it. Thank you so much. You want to spend some time with the audience?
For more meaningful life tips and an opportunity to view this show and all other episodes, visit our website at lifestyle.org. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to continuing this journey with you on future episodes of Lifestyle.